Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our chats with Emily, as we are calling our conversations with the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are now in poem 63, If Pain for Peace Prepares. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, our playlist is Chats with Emily. And I'm hopeful that you've had an introduction to our introductory set of comments where we talked about the Big Five, if you'll remember that, and we talked about how Emily's poetry is often going to play games with epistemology, what you can know, ontology, who you are, psychology, the study of the individual mind, sociology, the study of the collective mind. And you'll remember that I said that the fifth of the Big Five is the question of theodicy. Why must there be pain and suffering in the world? Emily was acutely aware, fine-tuned to this question, and I think that here she'll be playing a very similar kind of game. She's going to challenge herself, right, to follow her reading of Dante. We don't go to hell, but through it. Now notice the construction of this poem with the repetition of the word if to help us read this poem. Let's enjoy it. If pain for peace prepares, lo, what Augustan years our feet await. If springs from winter rise, can the enemies be reckoned up? If night stands first, then noon to gird us for the sun, what gaze? When from 1,000 skies on our developed eyes, noons blaze. It is fun to read this poem aloud because, of course, the way that she will play with language. Now, what exactly is this poem playing with? Well, I think she's talking about our longing, if not our hope. And I think we could call it, she'll say, hope is the thing with feathers. Here is what it is that we hope for. Now, there's no question that right away she will be playing the game of theodicy, right? And when bad things happen, the inclination, as we've pointed out, is to ask, why did this happen to us? It will be Emily's view that this is the wrong question to ask. The real question to ask is not, why did this happen to me, but rather, why did this happen for me? In other words, I'm not a victim being, kind of in some ways attacked by the universe of action, but rather I have some control to determine what the value of each negative thing in my life might be for. Notice we'll begin with a tripartite kind of breakdown of if. The first one, if pain for peace prepares, in other words, we're going to move from pain to relief, that's our hope, right? Lo, what Augustan, those years of calm in the Roman Empire, years our feet await. In other words, she's almost speaking ironically, the more difficult the pain, the more we hope that once we get through this kind of pain, we will have greater years of calm, right? Peace. Notice the second one will be the cyclical understanding of seasons. If springs from winter rise, then obviously the enemies will be reckoned up. In other words, we have plants that right now are sitting waiting to come up in the middle of winter that will ultimately be here in the spring. In other words, it's Shelley's line from Ode to the West Wind. If winter come, can spring be far behind? In other words, no matter how bad it is, we have to have hope that we will find our way through it and get to the other side. She will finish with the last of these in terms of not now seasons, but the notion of day and night. If night stands first, then noon, notice the italics of noon, then noon to gird us for the sun, what gaze? I should point out that instead of an exclamation point, a dash was used in a penciled copy of this poem to her pal Sue. Notice the symbolism of the sun here, that is to say joy, knowledge, or if we're reading Plato's Republic, the good, right, as we commented at other lectures at learnstrong.net. In other words, what is it that we're saying? There must, we hope, always follow the sun after the darkness of the night. The pain obviously will be relieved, we would hope, right? Notice to finish, and with the exclamation mark removed and just a dash, it actually makes it a little bit easier to read the next three lines. When, after all of this happens, and we finally figure it out, notice when from 1,000 skies on our developed eyes, notice also italicized, noons blaze. Well, what is this thing about developed? I think that's the key word of the poem, and that I think is her reading of Plato's Republic, especially Book 7, the cave allegory. You'll remember that when we talked about this, again, full lectures at learnstrong.net, we said that the individual that is brought out into the light of the sun is, of course, as we say, blinded by the light, and yet slowly the eyes become accustomed, and then, of course, those eyes are developed. Now, what's our word for that? Perspicacity, insight. We have outside, I can see you guys sitting there, and we have insight. That is to say, not that I roll my eyes into the back of my head, I see my brain. No, no. Insight doesn't mean that. It means what? Understanding, perspicacity. In other words, her argument here at 2a is that all pain must be apropedeutic. It must be instructional. It must be somehow didactic. It must be capable of preparing us for whatever comes after the pain, right? And therefore, we're always seeking some kind of balance or harmony in our life so that we can develop, so that we can see the sun, right? The blaze of the sun. At 2b, I love the repetition in the construction of this poem. If, when. And then at 3a, we mentioned it already, Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, if winter come, can spring be far behind? And as well, I think Plato's Republic, especially Republic 7, very much works nicely with this passage. Finally, at 3b, what was a time in your life when you actually felt like pain and suffering was apropedeutic, that it actually helped you, that you were able to ask not, why did this happen to me, but rather, why did this happen for me? I'm hopeful that our study of Emily is challenging you. Thank you.